Good day, I'm your humble narrator SideWaysThinker, and I'm just here with an episode of That There Enigmatic Entity, a series in which I discuss the more uncanny video game characters. In this particular outing, I will be dealing with an entirely optional encounter to be found in the 2010 Rockstar title, Red Dead Redemption. Red Dead Redemption, for the unaware, is an open-world, third-person shooter set during the final death throes of the American Wild West. About this setting, you pilot the eternally confused and frustrated John Marston as he hunts down his former gang mates in order to secure the safety of his family. During his quest, John comes into contact with many unusual and unsavory sorts, being helps and hindrances to varying degrees. However, they are of no concern to this series. Instead, we will focus on one entirely optional character who, unless being looked for, is very easy to miss. Despite this, he has become quite a talking point for many theorizers in the fandom. A brief warning before we get into the video proper. Due to the nature of the series, and the nature of this character especially, there will be some very hefty spoilers. If you do not wish to have the game spoiled, stop watching the video now. The character I speak of has no real name, only ever being referred to as a strange man, though for purposes of my own verbal comfort, we will refer to him as the strange man, or simply the Man. The Strange Man is one of the many optional stranger side quests found throughout Red Dead Redemption's open world, each of them involving different, slightly odd, but insignificant characters, placed to bring a little flavour to the vast and empty wasteland in which the game takes place, most of them having little to nothing to do with the game's actual plot. The same could be said, for the most part, regarding the Strange Man, as nothing he does or makes you do has any bearing on where the game's narrative ultimately leads, and the choices he gives you are insignificant. Rather, it is the way he phrases these choices, alongside the places and manners in which he appears, which lend him an air of importance and, most importantly, mystery. The Strange Man is best described as a white male with a thick, well-kept black moustache, wearing a three-piece black suit and a top hat, all also well-kept. When he appears, he does so in the middle of nowhere. His surroundings and apparently sparse belongings seem to suggest that he has been waiting there purposefully, a point which is reinforced when he speaks. His tone never changes from a calm and neutral one, even when discussing things that seem unpleasant to most. When you first encounter the Strange Man, he is standing alone on a cliff edge overlooking the valley wherein you find Armadillo. When you approach, he speaks the name of the main character without turning to see him. A bit odd, you may say, but nothing too strange, given that a man greeting another man with his back turned is something of a cliché. What makes this situation unusual is what follows. The Strange Man greets John by name and then, despite John's apparent lack of knowledge about the Strange Man, goes on to recall in some detail the murder of a young woman, whom he mentions by name, who was killed by one of the major antagonists of Red Dead Redemption, Dutch Van der Linde, at a time when John Marston was a member of his gang. When John retorts that he doesn't remember the girl, the Strange Man simply states, "Then why would you remember me, friend? You've forgotten far more important people than me." When questioned by John, he deflects the question, making a comment on how he wishes he had had more guidance regarding life, and then gives John a task. He asks that John go to Thieves' Landing to meet with a friend of the Strange Man's, who is drunk and about to cheat on his wife. He doesn't request that John stop him, but that John advise him how best to proceed. He leaves exactly what he wants to happen out of the equation, leaving it entirely up to John. When questioned again by John, he responds somewhat eerily with, "I know what you are, John." Already in this first meeting, it is clear that something isn't quite kosher with our strange friend. Despite John not recognizing the man seems to have an intimate knowledge of John's past, even being capable of recalling in startling detail an event that even John himself can't seem to remember, or at the very least, won't admit to. At this point, he can perform his task as you see fit, either discouraging this friend of his from cheating on his wife, or giving him $10 and telling him to go to town. Curiously, the Strange Man really doesn't seem to mind which you choose when you return, only commenting on your choice briefly, and even then he seems to be mocking or condescending, pointing out the massive flaw in a moral code that permits wanton murder, but oddly still holds marital vows sacred, if you choose the good option, or John's hypocrisy in staying faithful to his wife while he will pay a man to sleep with whores. Either way, when you meet him again in Mexico sometime later on in the game, he still welcomes John in his cryptic manner and tells him that he admires him and that he wants his son to be just like you. In response, John tells the Strange Man that it is only up to the appropriate authorities to judge his morality, which many, and myself, interpret as referring to God. The Strange Man confirms this by saying, "Yes, you will." and they shall. He then sends you off on another useless task, this time either to give money to a nun seeking alms to the poor, or to rob her and keep the money for yourself. As with the first task, he doesn't seem to care which choice you make, leaving it entirely up to the player to decide which one seems the more correct to them. He seems less to be offering guidance and more to be offering perspective. He at no point attempts to direct John's moral compass, rather he simply questions everything John does, regardless of how he proceeds. During the final meeting you have with the strange man, he is standing on a hill overlooking the ranch at Beecher's Hope. More specifically, he is standing on the exact spot that John and Abigail Marston are buried at the end of the game, remarking that this is a fine spot. John finally grows impatient and frustrated with the elusive behaviour of the strange man, and thus shoots at the strange man as he walks away. During the shooting, John shouts, "Damn you," to which the strange man replies, "Many have." The bullets fired seem to fly straight through the strange man without causing any injuries. From his actions, it is not difficult to understand why the strange man has caused so many people to leap from their consoles and onto the internet, formulating and sharing their theories regarding his nature. There are two overarching theories which break down into smaller variations within themselves, and all have their own merits and drawbacks. Some argue that the strange man is a paranormal entity, a divine or infernal force which has come to Earth in order to judge John personally. Some have postulated that he may be Saint Peter, others say the devil, and others still say he may be God himself. There is another theory, however, that states that he may be psychological, a manifestation of John Marston's conscience, appearing to John in order to be a mirror of some kind, to make John reflect upon and reconsider his actions and viewpoints. There are several things in favour of the strange man being a manifestation of John's morality. First of all is the simple and obvious fact that we never see the strange man talking or even acknowledging anyone else's presence, or vice versa. No one ever seems to take notice of the man. That, added in with his intimate knowledge of John's past, could support the notion that he's a manifestation of John's guilt. It could be argued that these points are moot, as no one is ever seen in contact with the man, as he purposefully sets up camp away from people, usually in the wilderness. Not only that, but the tasks that the man sets John are alarmingly specific, which would require a knowledge beyond that which John could possibly have. These, to me, destroy the notion that the strange man is a personification of a guilty conscience. I do not mention the bullets passing through him during the final scene in this section, as it could be used to justify both positions. Now, what does this leave us with? It leaves us with the strange man as a supernatural entity, either divine or infernal. One thing that supports this is the aforementioned detail to his requests, which would imply a supernatural intelligence. Another is his comment in response to John yelling "damn you." He simply says, "Many have," perhaps referring to the common use of "God damn it" and variations on that in support of the argument that he may be God. It could also be taken that he has been damned many a time, lending support to the devil theory. He could also be considered an embodiment of death, which would explain his apparent cold objectivity. Another thing to be taken into account when discerning the strange man's true identity is a small but interesting find. While you cannot permanently kill the strange man, due to his being a simple NPC outside of cutscenes, can indeed be killed in the game world. It is difficult to do, but if you kill him and search him, you find that he is carrying 6 bullets and $6. If taken as a reference to the infamous number 666, it speaks for itself. As an interesting aside, though not really lending itself to either theory, is that during the final cutscene with the man, John fires 3 shots before a 4th shot jams. Given the location in which the shooting takes place, it could be read that each shot represents a member of John's family when they die in the final moments of the game. One for himself, one for Uncle, and one for Abigail, and the final shot jams because Jack Marston survives. In the end, we cannot really be certain of who the strange man is or what his motivations are. All we know is that he is a mysterious character, and adds just a little bit more intrigue to the world of Red Dead Redemption. Well, that's got to be all from me for now. I've been your humble narrator, SideWaysThinker, and as always, keep calm and carry on. Good day.
Really? Then why would you remember me, friend? You've forgotten far more important people than me. What's your game, friend? I don't have a game, John. Listen, sometimes I just wish I'd known more about life. Wish I'd had better guidance. A friend of mine is drunk as a skunk in the saloon on Thieves' Landing. I think he's gonna be unfaithful to his dear wife. Why don't you head over there and see if you can advise him how best to proceed?
What do you think I am?
I know what you are, John. Just if you've got the time, friend.